All right, welcome to the Wyld Farm Family Fun Show, episode 23. I am Troy Rice, founder of FarmBridge, and Snappier co-host Nick Knudsen from Wyld Joy. Nick, how are you tonight?
I'm doing wonderful, Troy. Happy, thankful Thursday to everyone out there. And it's such a great pleasure to be back here with the Wyld Family Farm Show with you, Troy, and our special guest tonight, Chris, who's going to drop some spice on tonight to share more about his amazing work in the world and his amazing personality. I already got a chance. I think he's going to have a real fun time tonight. So how are you, Troy, and what is present for you tonight?
Yeah, good, man. Good. Family's good. We've been doing a lot of stuff in the kitchen with the kids lately. You probably saw that Tiffin made a dessert, so that was awesome. And then in light of Earth Day, we like to, since we're homeschooling the kids, at least for a few years here, we treat it as Earth Week, and so we did a few projects with the kids and a persuasive writing project with a little bit of inventiveness for Kellen, where he had to write a persuasive piece on why you should recycle, and then basically draft up a picture of how to teach somebody how to recycle. And then he built the process for our family. And So we have a little recycle bin that he made right next to our trash can with a visual poster board of what we should recycle. So that was a lot of fun project. Wow. Because it's fun to teach it, but because he's so creative too.
That's awesome. Wow. What a beautiful young mind that is. And I hope that maybe you can share a picture with us sometime or actually show us the recycling bin in the process. I think there could be some education for all of us coming from, such a great young mind. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And so Kellen's fortunate. We've talked about this a few times, but I read a lot of books, and I therefore try to disseminate that information to our kids. And I try to do it in a way that's fun. And so the book I just got done reading was called Switch by Chip and Dan Heath.
Yep, I know that book. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And the whole book is about like how you make change happen. And so that's what I kind of built into the writing thing that I was teaching him. Is like how you draft up something that really emotes feelings. It scripts it for the people that, want to be a part of that change for you. And so that was part of it. So I try to do that without the kids like looking at me like I'm crazy, but
well, maybe he would love to come on and onto the show and actually have a little segment where he can actually share his creation and process with all of us.
Yeah, I would love that, man.
I think that would be awesome. So,
a little play on fun too. If you guys saw the ticker, I see there are a few people joining us live. Thank you for engaging with us tonight. We had a fun ticker about Nick doing curls. He's rocking the old cutoff in the kitchen today, so you can see his mad muscles while he's whipping up a special recipe actually inspired by our guest tonight, which is something that Nick always puts a lot of intention into. So just a little joke.
I got swole at the CrossFit gym today, so it's sometimes you just got to show it off.
Right.
Sometimes they call me the shirtless chef, and for a special price, I'll go shirtless for you. So maybe late night hours, that kind of thing. So what you don't know about when you go to bed in the kitchen.
Oh man. Anyways, Nick's a lot of fun. If you're just joining us for the first time, Nick and I place a lot of wagers with each other where I sent Nick a ripstick, and he's going to have to try and actually cook on a ripstick in the kitchen. So if you're familiar with a ripstick, that's what he's going to have to do. But yes. And so thank you, everybody, again, that's joining us live tonight. We're excited to introduce a new guest from a different walk of life. Also a treat for me because I actually got to meet our guest, Chris Majer, a few years ago when we were getting FarmBridge started with the old FarmBridge model. And Chris was very interested, allowed us to help him, and kind of built a nice friendship with Chris. Chris is an amazing guy. And so I'm really looking forward to bringing him on. He's a really good guy, in addition to all the great work that he does on his farm and his spices and everything. But let's bring Chris up.
Yes.
Chris, how are you doing tonight, man?
How's everybody doing tonight? I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate the kind words.
Of course, man, always. And so like I mentioned, this is a treat for me because I've really enjoyed what have been like 2.5 years ago that we had the first phone conversation. And I really appreciate you keeping me along the journey that you've been building on your farm from the beginning to the commercial kitchen to the chicken coop, man. Just it's amazing. And so let's dig into that. And so we like to start off with a little fun segment with Chef Nick. So I'm going to have him walk you through that, and then we'll dig into your story and what you're doing.
Sounds good.
Chris, good evening. Happy Thankful Thursday. And thank you for joining Troy and I here. Super excited to learn more about you and what you've got going on. And by the way, could I just call out a beard brother? I mean, come on. We got a little gray going in here, a little salt and pepper here. So, I got a beard brother with me here. So that is fantastic. So Chris, to get things going, so where are you calling in from? And would you be so kind to share with Troy and myself and our awesome audience and community a fun fact about yourself?
Fun fact, I was in the Marines about 20 years ago. That kind of helped inspired all this and just kicking off doing that. I'm at my house. I'm in the kitchen downstairs doing this interview.
Wait, so your commercial kitchen is in your basement?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
That is fun. Wow.
It's small. It's only 8 by 12. That's the table. That's kind of all the stuff we do. We do a little panorama.
Chris, that's a dream come true for me.
Yes.
I'm telling you. A commercial kitchen in the basement, my God, that would have saved me so much time.
Everything all from scratch.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Chris, again for joining us. That is a fun fact, and thank you for your service in the military and for all that you have sacrificed and committed to help make us feel our sense of freedoms here in America. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. I really do.
So Chris, you started on this journey. So talk us through this a little bit because it's a lot of work to get a commercial kitchen started. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, so a lot of people always have questions about the kitchen, and what it boils down to pretty much is kind of where you live, what county you live in. Let's say we'll use Michigan. So every county has a Michigan Department of Agriculture, Rural Development person. So first step to doing is you reach out to them, you kind of see what your requirements might be, as far as plumbing or the setup and all that. And what kind of saved me a lot with this kitchen is I really don't need refrigeration. I don't need like mixers, like if you're baking or stuff like that. So I'm a pretty straightforward, I need a 3-compartment sink, the particular drain, the hand sink. I also built a bathroom next door to this and some storage and some stainless steel tables.
Nice.
Wow.
So it was a lot of work. It was a whole lot of work. But got through it. Turned out I'm very happy with it.
So let's transition into that because I know you've done a lot of projects on your farm to kind of get it going on what you're doing. What I want to show real quick to our audience here is a little bit about what you guys provide. So this is like a seasonal or a package of the spices here and salts. And you can see like this one over here is a habanero honey, which is excellent. And then you also have a cayenne sea salt, habanero sea salt, and a serrano sea salt. And all the peppers are grown on your farm, right?
Farm to table from scratch. I start everything, lay everything out, and from farm to table, I do everything. Process everything in-house. And that habanero honey is people love that, a huge seller.
Yeah. So the intention tonight for our audience too was for Nick to actually make his recipe with it. And unfortunately we didn't get to his place in Nashville on time, but he still has a dish prepared for you inspired by Chris.
Yes.
And then we will share a recipe with Chris's seasonings and salts in there. So the audience has that. But walk us through your farm, Chris, like how it's laid out, how you do the peppers and the process and the beekeeping. Just kind of take us through that journey.
So it all started, we'll go back to like 2017, had a vision in my head. So my boys were 2 and 5 or 3 and 5 at the time. And I wanted something to give them that they could use and just see that my hard work, what my hard work can do, kind of bring them into that. And they're out there helping all the time. They do, help me pick peppers, do all my projects out there. And it's truly inspiring to sit back and see them and watch how they grow as people, while I'm doing all this and trying to grow this side of things. So we started out so I do everything in plastic rows. And when it all started, I was digging the ditches and laying everything by hand. And that is a tremendous amount of work. So we ended up, I did that for the first 2 years. And I ended up growing a 50-foot row of jalapenos. And this is actually when I started talking to you. And I was canning them, I was cooking with them. I just couldn't figure out what to do with them. So my mom ended up having one of those basic dehydrators, a circle. I want to think it was an Oyster. It was a brand name. So she ended up bringing that down. So I started dehydrating them, which somehow snowballed into grinding them up, jarring them up, and taking them to the farmer's market.
Yes.
So the first 2 years, I was only able to sell under the Michigan cottage laws, which means you can only do face-to-face transactions. You can't sell like over the internet, anything like that.
Yes.
So I looked into, renting a commercial kitchen, but dehydrating peppers takes roughly about 24 hours. It's a huge, process. It just takes, time. So I looked into what it would take to build one. And first let me back up. So I went to the farmer's market, did very well with it the first year. Second year went very well. We even doubled the plants, doubled everything. And then this year, since I started, I've tripled the amount of jars I did last year.
Wow.
So,
nice.
Yeah, we're up to like 1,500 jars this year. I think 1,555 right now. So I've been in retail, I think 7 or 8 retail locations. So everything's grown organically, all, farm to table. I love it. I love it.
And you said there in the beginning too about the inspiration that it can provide to your kids to watch you build something from hand and grow it. True entrepreneurship, let's call it grit, right? Like really digging in and putting the hard work in. And so walk us through that, because I know your kids are a big part of your journey on your farm there. And so tell us like why that's important to you and your family.
So I kind of pretty much everything I've done in life, I would say I have. As far as learning how to build stuff, how to fix things, I'm kind of a self-taught person. So I know I can build anything, I can pretty much fix anything. And I kind of wanted to pass that on to the boys just so they have those tools as they get older, where, opens up options. And, if you're struggling at hard times, you can go do some side jobs or something. But just have that true hard work ethic is really huge to me. And just watch them grow as, kids and, young adults. Next week they're turning 7 and 9. And it's just beautiful watching everybody grow, including myself,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm curious on this one, because that's something that we get a restraint back from the kids, but do they ever give you a hard time when you try to send them out there to do something on the farm, whether that's weeding or planting or growing or anything?
No. So if I go out there and I don't push any work on them, if they want to help, they help. But I don't want them to go out there feeling obligated. Like, it's 80 degrees out, Dad's making us pick, 1,200 pepper plants, So they do their own thing when they're out there, help when they can, or, when they get time. And I'm just having them out there with me just makes the world of difference.
Absolutely.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
That's cool, man. Yeah.
And once told me, he said, your dreams aren't your kids' dreams. So you want to force it on them. I don't want them to look at it and just not like going out there.
What a huge statement, because I struggle with that sometimes, right? Like I love that my kids go to markets with me and enjoy the experience, learn about FarmBridge, but sometimes it is a little too much, right? They have their own thing. And so I think that's a powerful message to be sending. So beekeeping, You don't just do peppers, you do beekeeping too. So talk to us about that.
So I ended up meeting a guy, so a buddy of a buddy out there, a buddy that got me started farming. It's one of his friends, and he was into beekeeping, getting older, just retired. He's like, Chris, I'm just done with it. So a few years ago, he ended up selling me everything. So I just started the whole bee journey, and that's a big learning curve. And actually, all our bees died last year again over the winter. And actually, I have 3 packages of bees right now in my buddy's greenhouse that are going to be installed tomorrow.
Mm.
But that's what you see. But that's, everybody loves fresh, raw honey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I somehow came upon the idea of the habanero honey, infusing it. And that took a rocket. People absolutely love that. Love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, honey can be, Chef Nick will probably jump in on this one. Honey can be very good to glaze or cook with. Yeah. And so consider the spice in there. It kind of adds an additional flavor.
Yes, it's sweet, and then there's the heat after it.
Yes, that's exact. Little sweet and spicy. That's how I like love too.
Yeah. Yes.
So, Chris, real quick, I'm really not to take us too far back, but why peppers? Like, why did you pick peppers as your your focus and what you wanted to master and provide to the world?
It just kind of snowballed, and then a big thing: deer don't eat the peppers.
Mm.
So I was getting watermelons, tomato, everything's getting jacked up out there over the year, and I just didn't want to do the whole thing with putting a fence around everything, and all that. And then I noticed, I was like, well, nobody likes these peppers. So I don't mess with no. I might have 1 or 2 tops taken off, but out of like 1,400 plants, I'm happy with that. I'm very happy.
That's great.
Started selling at the market. I was like, I think I really have something here. And so you guys saw the ones I did, the jalapeno, serrano, cayenne, habanero. Well, I ordered the plants this year. I'm doing Tabasco and Ghost on top of that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have been reaching out for the Ghost.
Yes.
So I'm going to give a shot and see how it goes, how that works.
And we've shown, and so everybody that's just joining us, we've shown Chris's awesome variety pack here that you can get, but you can also buy them individually in refilled packets. But anybody across the U.S. can order, right? I mean, you don't have to be in Michigan. You can ship across the country, right?
Yeah, I've gone all the way to California, everywhere.
Perfect. Yeah.
So another quick question, just for my for our learning, why what about your part of the world really helps your peppers be so good, so amazing?
So I load up on compost. So last year, by laying this plastic by hands, it's not fun at all. So last year I invested in a plastic layer that goes behind the tractor. So now this thing lays, and another thing with growing peppers is you can grow them like 2 in a row right next to each other. You offset them a foot so you can get a good amount of plants in a row. So I do 100-foot rows, and then the drip tape gets all in that, all aligned with that. And then with the compost, so I have these 2 garages out here. Troy, you probably seen this. So yeah, I like fiddling with stuff a lot. So I end up putting gutters on the bottom of these garage shelter things I have and pump the water into a 1,500-gallon tank. The rainwater feeds all the plants because I don't have power or water out there right now.
Wow.
Yeah, and talk. I know this is on your website too, but talk about your irrigation system that you've created, so that way it knows when to provide the water.
So I got with the guys. Name's Bob. He started AKI Tech, I believe is the name of his company. But he started a company where I'm glad you brought that up. So it's a sensor. It's all solar and it goes off of phone satellites, but it gives you the measurement of the water or the moisture in your soil. So I put it right kind of in the middle. I put it in kind of like where it's not too hot or not too dry, not too wet, And every 4 hours it shoots a signal up and it tells me the moisture level. So it's on my side. I got an app for it, so it helps out tremendously with watering and controlling that aspect of everything. Because you're always stressed about water. We'd go camping or something. I'd be stressing the whole time on my phone.
Yes.
Just checking it.
Yeah.
Works well. I like it. I really like it. There's a one at I want to say 4 inches, one at 8 inches. So it kind of gives you the more top part and then down at the root level.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when we first met, Chris. That was one of the most fascinating things that I'd love to learn about what you're doing there, because a lot of farmers don't want to leave their property ever because of things like that, right? Because of the crop and knowing what could happen. A lot of the time, is probably because of pests, which you don't have to worry about because you got peppers, right? So, but yes, so awesome. And what's interesting along the same lines, and so a couple episodes ago, we brought on a guy that does technology for emitting sound frequencies through irrigation systems to help plant growth.
Okay.
It was pretty good, but it was just along the lines of you, like using like different systems that kind of help plant growth. And I've never heard of sound before, but I guess it kind of makes sense if you think about some people believe that music in the home with the plants that they have in the home actually helps the plant. And so there's been scientific research that's proven that. And so he's figured out a way to omit that, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, cool. Well, what else, if anything, Chris, would you like to share with us tonight about your farm, about how to reach you, about anything, principles of life on the farm?
Yeah, just majerfamilyfarms.com is our website. You know, we're looking to grow, looking to expand, trying to get into more retail locations. I actually signed up with the Michigan State Extension a couple years back when I first started talking to you.
Yeah.
A conference, a virtual food conference coming up here, I think next week, and which will have a lot of vendors and buyers and all that. So I'm kind of hoping that might help out a little bit. Just looking to grow, just looking, keep it going in the right direction, positive direction.
So do you have any big projects? I mean, I know you've done the chicken coop and the commercial kitchen. Like, do you have any big projects slated?
I did. So I did another chicken run. We're looking to buy another 15 chickens.
Okay.
People absolutely love the chicken eggs. So it's a nice,
yes,
a dozen of them. And I built another chicken run, and I'm not really sure about projects. I'm thinking about building the boys a 4-wheeling park. That's the next thing.
I love it, Chris. I love it, man. All right, cool. So I
have one more question for Chris. Well, one's maybe a bit more serious, one's a little bit more fun. So first off, we'll go serious and then we'll go fun. But what has what have you learned about your experience being on the farm, and like what have you learned about life and entrepreneurship that you would really like what is like your biggest lesson, or why do you wake up every day to do what you do? I know you mentioned your kids, but like what is it that is there something else also that is really kind of what really makes Chris Majer?
Just drive. I have a lot of drive and a lot of heart that I put into it. I have my real job that I work at. I really don't get a full sense of fulfillment, we'll say. And there's always something. I know there's something always more for me in life. And I felt that this was a positive direction to go in for myself and for the boys and the family. And it's been a great ride. It's been great work. But it gets easier, you just keep finding new ways. Like Troy, your lean farming, you keep finding new ways to cut, to shave time off stuff, to shave energy off stuff. It's just a great journey. I love it. Actually, absolutely love it. Talking to people. I love talking to people, getting their ideas, encourage people to do the same.
Yes. Yeah, I remember conversations you and I were having, Chris, where you were trying to figure out ways to interact more at the markets to gain ideas from customers. I remember you were talking through that, even when you're going through the packaging.
Yes.
The refill packaging. So you're always on the lookout for that, which is excellent.
These, I want to give credit. These are gift crates I do. A good friend of mine, Al, which is him and his wife Priscilla, a great inspiration to me. They've been 100% on board with supporting my ideas, my craziness, and they just completely, he's the one that actually came up with the crate idea and put these together for me.
Nice.
Because I wanted to give something more of a, like, the old school crate feel type thing.
Yep.
And I absolutely love these things.
So what's their company's name? Let's make sure that we chat that in here.
Friends of mine, I work with them for years, and just good people, great people, and just awesome. They support me 100%, help out. Good ideas to bounce off of.
Okay.
It's awesome. I love it.
Nick, do you have a fun question?
I do have a fun question. What is your spice tolerance?
So I figured, normal people, and I'll include that with myself, eat like habanero seems to be like your top, like the top one. Like the habanero salt is amazing on pizza and stuff like that, but I can't do the ghost. But people want it, so I'm going to grow it and see how that goes.
Yeah.
But that habanero is pretty hot, real hot.
Real hot. Yes, it is hot. Yeah. I know. I know how spicy it can be. Tasting it, and then sometimes when I've worked with peppers, I forget to wash my hands, and I go to the bathroom, and that's no good either. So
dude, got gloves on, like taking my contacts out. Miserable. Burns.
That's the question you should have asked, Nick. What's the craziest story that's happened after handling peppers?
Yes, no, there you go. There's the question. There, thank you, Troy.
And I've had people at the market that have came up, and this one guy in particular comes up, and it had my brother had grown some Carolina Reapers, and I had too many of these. I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, the market, sell them, and whatever I get, I'll give to you. And there's this one guy in particular that comes up, great guy, nice guy, walks up. He's like, "Can I try one?" I was like, "Yeah, shit, go ahead." And he took a shit out of it, and he got that good. And I'm like, "What is wrong with you?" And he didn't flinch. He didn't flinch, not one bit. And he took like an apple. It blew my mind.
Some people have those taste buds. I had a college roommate that would sneak insanity sauce into our food when we weren't paying attention, just to see how we would react. But his tolerance was so high. Like he lives by you, Chris. He lives over in Plymouth now. But I swear he could eat anything. So
that's awesome.
Handle it.
That's awesome.
That's crazy. Well, awesome, Chris. Well, I've really enjoyed having you. We always invite our guests to stick around because the meal that Chef Nick prepares is inspired by you. Unfortunately, we can't put your salts in it this time, but it will be in part of the recipe. But we'd love for you to stick around. But most of all, grateful to have you on today, man.
Dude, I love it. I really appreciate you reaching out and us getting together. Nick, I'm glad I met you.
Yes, likewise, Chris. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to try your product, especially the salts. And I really think with this dish it's going to be a little crispy fried chicken to add a little bit of that habanero honey on top would just put this to the top. So I'm really excited to try this with your product. So
if there's a way, do you guys put out the recipe?
Yes, you will have it for sure.
I would love to try cooking that.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you, Chris, so much.
Yes.
Thank you for your story. All right. Give me, Troy, I got to pull some chicken out of the fridge because I didn't want it to sit out during, so can you help fill some time just for a moment?
That's a nice, polite way to say that, Nick. So, so if you're just joining us, it looks like there's 5 people watching us live, which is excellent. If you're joining us, watching us live on YouTube or Facebook, this also sits as a podcast. So if you are more of a podcast listener and you'd rather download and listen to it, you can catch any episode of the Wyld Farm Show on any podcasting streaming network. And so we encourage you to do that. Also, we had some pretty interesting guests over the last few shows. And so last show, we had Dr. Stephen Cabral out of Massachusetts. He's a Ayurvedic naturopathic doctor, and he talked a lot about toxins in the home and what we don't know is in certain products that we use, as well as the different heavy metals that we might be consuming. And it's Nick and I were just blown away by the stuff that we don't know and we learned from. And he wrote a really excellent book called The Rain Barrel Effect, if you're curious in checking that out. So we hope you do that. Nick, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Troy, for the assist there. And yes, so thank you again to our wonderful guest, Chris, for being on the show. And like we said, Chris's product unfortunately did not make it to my place here in Nashville, but we are going to make sure that the recipe that we provide, and we're going to do a little a check-in segment later on at a future episode where we talk about using Chris's products so that we properly acknowledge his kindness and his amazing work in the world. Yeah. So given that I'm in Nashville, I've had a hankering to be doing some Southern cooking. And I actually got things going this past weekend. I whipped up my first batch of Southern corn bread using a cast iron pan. It's gluten-free, dairy-free. I can't wait to share that with everyone in the past. But the other thing I've been hankering is some fried chicken. So we're going to kind of take a little bit of a spin. And what I was really hoping for is we're going to call this the, kind of the Wyld Tennessee hot chicken, right? With the Majer Farms product. So what we're going to be starting with, we have a bone to pick with removing the bone from our skinless chicken thighs. So I'm going to give us a real quick tutorial on how to remove that bone. The other thing that is really important with this recipe is you're going to want to, I'm using a cast iron pan. And I know Dr. Cabral kind of talked about not using be mindful of using, heavy metals in your cooking. But for this recipe, we're going to go straight ahead and use that cast iron because it is what's really going to give us that really nice crispy skin. And we're actually not going to be scraping anything. So it's just going to be the chicken and the pan. So there you go.
Yeah. Jump in here, Nick. So Tiff was curious. She wanted to do a little bit more research on the cast iron thing with lead. And apparently the old style cast iron pans were created with more lead content, but the newer pans tend to check out as not having those heavy metals in it. So I wanted to share that. Not that that doesn't hold true, but Nick or Tiff wanted to do a little bit of research afterwards to find that where that comes from, where the concept of cast iron and lead toxins.
Awesome. Well, that is wonderful knowledge, and thank you, Tiff. I'm going to I do have an antique cast iron that I use in Minnesota, so now I'm going to be double checking that. All right. So the first thing you're going to want to do, you want to, obviously you want like a deboning knife, or you can use a chef knife, but we want to make sure that this baby is nice and sharp because we're trying to remove a bone out of a chicken. So it's a little tedious, but the sharper your tool here is, the easier it's going to remove and the safer it's going to be for you as the person doing it. So I'm just going to clean up my blade here. Again, the honer does not necessarily sharpen the blade. It just helps clean it. But it's a really nice process to get into. And I like to do it. It kind of centers me into the kitchen. It brings me into the present moment and what I'm about to do. So, all right, so let's get into it. So I'm going to place those chicken thighs that I have skin side down onto the cutting board. So I'm going to try to make sure people can see this. So I have the bone. I can kind of squeeze it right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of start to score each side of where the bone rests in the chicken thigh. And as I do that, I'm going to be able to kind of just, all I'm doing is kind of scraping, and then I'm going to be able to start to pull it out, and I'm just kind of doing little scrapes to kind of keep the meat and the integrity of the thigh in place. And again, I'm just kind of, it's a little bit tedious, but now you can kind of start to see the bone here sticking out. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep scoring. I'm just kind of, this is why it's really nice to have a super sharp knife, because I'm not having to wrestle with it. It's just kind of, as I'm kind of scoring it, it's sort of gently popping out. And then I'm going to eventually just remove that entire chicken bone, and I'm going to put it aside, and I'm going to double check to make sure that there's no other bone there. Okay, good. So I'll put that back on my plate. And one real quick note, I'm going to save these chicken bones, and I'm actually going to make a little bit of a stock with it. So I'm trying to resource everything. And I think, when we're talking about Earth Day, being resourceful, like these are really good habits to like be resourceful for every product of the animal. So it's not something I'm going to eat, but I can boil that down and make a really nice stock with that. So just to be mindful there. So I've got one more that I'm going to do again. So I'm scoring along the edge of the bone. And then eventually this baby's going to, whoop, missed my score there. But I'm telling you, this is such a great lesson and such a great example as to why you want to have good, you don't need expensive knives, but it's really important why you want to keep your knives sharp and keep them in good working order, because when you get to things like this, you want to be able to keep yourself safe and just make the process a lot easier for yourself. So, and then we are good to go. We'll double check to make sure. I got a little bit of a bone right there. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to clean my hands, because what I'm going to first do before I do that, so this is the step where we would apply the Majer Farms spikes, salt, pepper mix. But for tonight, I'm just doing a simple salt and pepper mix, and I'm going to salt and pepper the skin.
Nice.
And then what I'm going to do, I have my cast iron pan at about a medium low, and I'm going to bring my chicken thighs over to the pan. And when it sizzles, when we put it in, we know it's good. So we're going to kind of complete this process. Oh, I forgot to say that you want to put about a teaspoon of oil down into the pan. I already did that. And what's going to happen, I'll show you all, is that the fat is going to cook off of the chicken, and it's going to create more oil for the chicken to fry in and then essentially cook in. So
nice. And what oil are you using tonight, Nick?
I just used a simple avocado oil just to get things going.
Yeah, probably one thing to call out here. So Nick talked about the bones there, but if you're somebody that would prefer to eat the breast because you don't want to hassle with the bone, one benefit, I guess, would be that you get to re-cook with it by making the chicken stock, right? And then that comes with benefits of like gelatin and the bone itself. which is very, very good for your health.
Yes, they're really great. So yeah, just a real quick thing, given that, if we were, so what I would do is I would just put those chicken bones in a pot. And if I had some, like, one of the things I like to do is if I have scraps of celery, shavings of carrots, I just put it in a container. And then when I need to make a stock, I'll just throw all of that stuff into my my stock pot. So again, not trying to waste anything, reusing as much as we possibly can. Like, I guess I like the term total utilization.
Yeah.
So total utilization means like using everything that you possibly can, without necessarily throwing really anything away to the best of your ability. So
excellent.
So as that chicken, so let's check this out here. So I have this going in my cast iron pan. Looks beautiful. So I'm going to let the skin side, I guess, sear for about 12 to 15 minutes, and I'm not going to touch it. So if I were to touch this, I'm going to lose the sear, and I'm going to lose elements of that being really crispy. So if I'm over here flipping and flipping and flipping, that's going to ruin. It's going to, I guess, disrupt the crispiness process of the skin, and it's going to kind of take away from the integrity of the dish. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to kind of keep this going for 12 to 15 minutes. And then after 12 to 15 minutes, I will flip it over, and for about 3 to 5 minutes on the other side. And if I want to check, the meat thermometer, I'm looking for 165 for an internal temperature. But let's just go ahead and put this whole thing together, because I went ahead and I fried up some of this chicken earlier, and I'll show you the final product. So I'm not going to make people wait around, but this is essentially how the chicken will look. So like from first view, this kind of looks like fried chicken. Now, is it fried chicken? Not necessarily, but it looks like it, and it has that crispy skin, right, that you get with fried chicken. So is this a little bit healthier than fried chicken? Maybe a little bit. But you can see that it has just a beautifully crusty skin, and that's going to be crunchy when you cut it up, and it really is excellent and delicious. So what I would do, as far as like putting this in a meal, so I got some greens going. I got some potatoes going. And what's going to happen is I'm just going to slice that chicken. I could put a fried egg on top, but let's just start real quick here. So I'll start with some sweet potatoes down on the bottom.
And did you chop those up into squares? Is that what I see there?
Yeah, I diced those sweet potatoes up. Yep. And then I roasted them up at like 400 for about 20 to 25 minutes until they're fork tender.
Okay.
Drizzle them with olive oil. And I was also, Troy, I know this is a little inside thing, but Dr. Cabral talked about using parchment paper to line my aluminum. I'm glad that I'd done this, but I didn't do it I didn't ever know about the metal toxicity piece.
Yeah.
I did it for cleanup. So.
Yeah. And for our audience, he talked at length about aluminum and how a lot of the stuff that we cook with in the kitchen and a lot of the products we use in our home have traces of aluminum, and high traces of aluminum can lead to various different risks with your health, especially if it's accumulated over time. So fascinating, Nick, because it actually shields that aluminum.
Yes, and it helps with cleanup. So you make your partner or yourself happy by not having to scrub away on a pan that's got a bunch of dried, burnt, crispy potatoes on. So what I'm doing here, so I have a bed of just regular old like chef fingerling potatoes, sweet potatoes. I like to mix them up for myself. Yeah. I like the texture, not much of a texture difference, but I like the flavor difference of the sweet and the salty. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bed of arugula with a little bit of like a cilantro lime vinaigrette. That habanero honey would be an awesome addition to that vinaigrette.
I'll send you some when it comes in, when it's time. I'll definitely send you a jar.
Chris, are you going to do some ghost honey?
Well, we can try it. See how that goes.
Try it. So I think you might have a big hit on your hand if you do that, Chris. Yeah, maybe we should do a spice games, Chris.
To do that, yeah, for sure.
Just bring everybody who thinks that they have the highest spice tolerance in the whole world and like bring them all in one spot and then just crush them.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So with the when this is so let's just walk this through. So after 15 minutes of the chicken frying on the skin, I'm going to flip it over for about 3 to 5 minutes. Then I'm going to transfer it over to a paper towel lined plate or something, and I'm going to let it rest for about 5 minutes. And then when I'm ready to serve, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut some strips here.
Yeah.
And then all I'll do from here is then lay that on the top. And if I had some of that awesome habanero honey, like that would be a fantastic finish, maybe even with some of the finishing salt of Chris's product. But we're also would be searing the chicken with that either the cayenne, the habanero, or there was one cayenne, habanero, and what was the other one, Chris?
Jalapeno and serrano.
Jalapeno. So that would also cook it, that fat and that spice will cook into the chicken breast, or I'm sorry, the chicken thighs really, really well. So when you combine fat and heat, you've got yourself a party. But anyway,
what was the reasoning for using chicken thighs?
Well, for me, Chris, you could do this with chicken breasts as well. I personally like the flavor of chicken thighs more than chicken breasts.
Okay, personal preference.
Not just it's a little bit more forgiving. Yes, you can do this with chicken breast for sure. That would not be a problem. But I personally like the flavor of chicken thighs a little bit more. But
okay,
easily done with chicken thighs too, or chicken breast. It's just a little bit more delicate when you have to pull those off as soon as they're about at 161, 162, so not to overcook, the entire breast.
Okay.
Yeah, and as we mentioned earlier, the bones. I mean, if you're a big soup family, we eat soup all the time, especially in the winter months. Those bones are awesome for creating the broth for many different types of soup too.
So yes, well, there you have the Wyld Majer Farms Hot Tennessee Chicken Bowl. We'll call it that for right now. But yeah, I'm very happy with this result, and I cannot wait to try this with Majer Farms salt spice mixture and some of that habanero honey. I think this would bring this dish to a whole nother level, 100%. So.
Excellent. That looks amazing, man. As always,
yes.
Thank you for whipping that up in the kitchen. Again, we hope to have Chris's salts and honey to Nick in Nashville on time, but we unfortunately didn't make that. But the recipe that will be provided will have Chris's products in the recipe if you have them. We encourage you to check out his website. They have a ton of different products. I think we mostly talked about the salts, but I believe, Chris, you guys have spices too, which would be the dehydrated peppers, right? So not just the salt. So if you're more of that, like a pepper person or sprinkling pepper on, they have that as well. So, well, thank you so much, Nick. Thank you, Chris. Yeah. Make sure you get those guns out, buddy. In case you missed it early on, Nick's rocking a cutoff shirt tonight, which is not typical for the show, but typical for Nick in the kitchen. He's a madman, but a good madman. But yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, everybody that joined us tonight. I saw there's 6 people live, which is excellent. We really appreciate that. Great support for Chris and for the show, and we're really grateful for you. Again, we talk about everything farm, family, food, and fun on this show. If you're listening and you're interested and you want to join Nick and I, please reach out. We would love to hear your story and dig in and everything. What you can expect is we have actually bringing on a family member in a couple weeks here who runs a Lego business, which is kind of fascinating. And so that's why I wanted to bring him on. It's a little different. And then we also have Jennifer Anderson from Kids Eat Color. And she has a huge program where she talks about kids and their relationship to food and how we can help them think through not only what to eat and inspire them to eat healthier, but maybe why they behave the certain way they do around certain foods. And so that'll be an interesting guest coming up in May. So thank you to everybody again. We hope you have an awesome week, and we will see you on next week's show.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. Thanks again, Chris.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too.
Troy, always great. Always great, Troy.
Absolutely, Chris.
See you, buddy.